Hello, you good people of the YouTubes. It's Neil from Fiefdom Tracklocross, back again to ruin your lovingly curated algorithm. And today we probably are going to ruin it because we're going to look at the idea of philosophy and tracklocross. So sit back, open up a pack of Galwa, have a very black coffee, make sure your turtleneck is on, and let us begin. To understand the appeal of tracklocross, one must delve deeper than mere mechanics or sport. The discipline operates on the boundary of absurdity and resolve, individual agency and environmental hostility. Riders voluntarily submit themselves to situations that border on the masochistic, powering up muddy inclines, descending loose gravel with no freewheel on which to coast, and risking bodily harm not for the sake of winning, but for the peculiar joy of surviving with dignity intact. It is here amidst the grit, blood and laughter of a trail that we find fertile ground for an unlikely philosophical comparison. One might suggest, with only a small grin, that the tracklocross athlete is a Camusian absurd hero of the cycling world. Sisyphus with a drivetrain, pushing the absurd boulder of self-imposed hardship with stoic resolve and perhaps a beer. Tracklocross is best understood not as a category of sport, but as a mode of being, emerging in the late 2010s and early 2020s as a grassroots response to the perceived overcomplication and elitism of mainstream cycling. It represents an intentional return to minimalism, both in terms of technology and philosophy. At its most basic, tracklocross is off-road cycling done on a fixed gear bike that lacks any of the features deemed essential for rough terrain. There is no suspension, no gears and possibly no disc brakes. To the uninitiated, this might sound like a design flaw. To the dedicated practitioner, this is the reason. The fixed gear bike is central. Unlike its freewheeling cousins, a fixed gear bicycle requires constant pedalling. There is no coasting, no relief on the descents, and no neutral gear in which to contemplate one's life choices. Every metre of ground covered is the result of relentless muscular and mechanical effort. One cannot separate the rider from the bike, nor the action from its consequence. One might observe here a faint echo of Sartre's dictum that existence precedes essence. The rider does not become a tracklocrosser by mere possession of equipment, rather they become one through action, suffering and engagement with the terrain. Unlike the choreographed precision of road racing or the hyper-regulated world of professional mountain biking, tracklocross races are characterised by an atmosphere of chaos and irreverence. Courses are marked out in scrubland, wastelands or public parks, often with barely any regard for safety or decorum. Riders frequently wear casual clothing or mix cycling kit with punk aesthetics, reflecting a DIY ethic reminiscent of early skateboarding or hardcore scenes. As in existentialism, freedom here is not a gift but a burden. Riders are free to choose their lines, their bike builds, their level of commitment to technique versus sheer bloody mindedness. But with this freedom comes responsibility and sometimes a little bit of blood. Existentialism, broadly construed, is a philosophical movement that places the individual at the centre of meaning making, in contrast to systems that posit objective moral structures or divine plans. Existentialism contends that individuals must create their own values in a world devoid of inherent meaning. This leads to a central tension. The individual is radically free, yet this freedom is experienced as a source of anxiety and alienation. For Jean-Paul Sartre, freedom was the defining characteristic of human existence, but also its curse. In Being and Nothingness, he introduces the concept of bad faith, the act of lying to oneself to avoid the responsibilities that freedom entails. The tracklocross rider, in this light, could be seen as a repudiation of bad faith. There is no escaping one's choices mid-ride. If one has brought too bald a tire, or failed to tighten the lock ring, or chosen to attack the climb instead of dismounting, the result will be immediately and painfully instructive. The terrain offers no comfort, no illusions. It merely reflects with brutal honesty the consequences of one's freedom. Moreover, existentialism emphasizes facticity, the inescapable conditions of one's situation, one's body, past choices, and the circumstances into which one is thrown. In tracklocross, facticity is the rut in the mud, the angle of the descent, the dull ache of legs already too tired, and the rain now intensifying. Yet the rider still chooses how to respond. Will they dismount gracefully, or heroically attempt to ride through the obstacle, risking personal and mechanical integrity? This moment of choice is the crucible of authenticity. The trail becomes, in a literal and metaphysical sense, the terrain of the self. Albert Camus, controversially an existentialist for the purpose of this video, despite his own rejection of the label, provides a particularly apt lens through which to view tracklocross. In the myth of Sisyphus, Camus represents the image of the Greek mythological figure condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only for it to roll back down each time. This futile labour becomes for Camus a metaphor for the human condition. We live in a universe that offers no ultimate meaning, and yet we must continue. Sisyphus would undoubtedly be in a Teams meeting if the ancient Greeks were alive right now. Substitute Sisyphus's boulder for a fixed gear bicycle laden with mud, and the metaphor gains not only comic but also poignant clarity. The tracklocrosser climbs a hill not because it is rational or efficient or even enjoyable in a conventional sense, but because it is there, and because they can. There is no illusion of progress, no grand narrative of salvation through sport. The test will repeat, the terrain will remain indifferent, and the only certainty is suffering. And like Camus' hero, the tracklocrosser must be imagined happy. Indeed, many riders speak of the joy found in these moments of perfect absurdity. Pedalling downhill while trying not to be flung over the bars, wrestling traction on a loose incline, or sliding across a field with the resigned grace of a philosophy undergraduate misquoting Kierkegaard. There are not moments of meaning in the traditional sense, they are moments of engagement, of living fully in the present, of saying yes to the absurdity of it. Camus writes, "The struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart." One suspects that Camus, had he been born in the age of social media and poorly maintained bridleways, might have donned cut-off jeans and mudcake cycling cap and joined in. After all, what is tracklocross if not a rebellion without appeal? So that is the first part of our little look into existentialism. I didn't want to make it too long, and next time we'll look at authenticity, irony, and the DIY ethic. If that sounds like something you would like, subscribe, all that jazz. But as always, remember, I'm not your mum, so do whatever you want. And hopefully I'll see you for the next video, but if not, go out and be the best person you can be and revel in the absurdity of life. Cheers! Thanks for listening.